attack, fast fatal heart impact, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and packs. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty, now, hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and whenever we last left off, we had Izuku Midoriya. Not only has he fought against the Eye Island threat, he also encountered Meliodas of the Ten Commandments, or the Prince of Demons. Now, Midoriya tried with all he had to fight against these two, fighting against Wolverham and then trying to save David's shield. Meliodas making quick work of Midoriya, leaving him with a scar on his upper left side of his torso, running up to the upper left cheek, along with at least going towards the middle of his throat, the other side of his neck, and partially towards the bottom of his chin and the other way up, cutting up to around his ear. Now, with that being said, we will cut to Midoriya's apartment the next morning. Midoriya, he's just laying there, taking deep breaths as he's asleep, before there's at least a knock on his door. And Midoriya does not wake up. In fact, by the time he actually does begin to come to, he slowly at least begins to open his eyes. Where am I? Oh. That's right. Ugh, I fell asleep on the couch. I haven't slept like that in a long time. It almost felt peaceful. Another knock on his door. Who could that be? Midoriya going to get up before realizing that, well, there's something on him. Him pulling the blanket off and finding that Deanne has her arms wrapped around him. And she is also asleep. Midoriya slowly grabbing her wrist and opening her fingers, before being able to slide out, getting onto his feet, and walking over to the front door. Opening it, and surprise, surprise, there is All Might. Yes, hello young man. Are you free to talk right now? Oh, sure. Well, may I come in? I don't believe it's very wise for us to talk out here. Come on in. All Might walking in, and at least looking around for a second. That's kind of strange. He expected this place to be a bit more... what's the right word for it? Kind of fancy, or at least a little bit bigger than a regular apartment. And then he does actually see Deanne laying on the couch. Her grabbing the blanket and rolling back over. That is odd. Oh, sorry about that. We were watching movies last night and we kind of fell asleep. Alright. Well now. You can start from the beginning. What do you mean? Well, I would like to understand everything. Would you mind filling me in? Okay. So, let's begin. Midoriya beginning whenever he was very young. Somewhere in the Himalayas is a hidden fairy forest. It is now gone, or at least destroyed. He does not know. Whatever happened to it, well, doesn't exist anymore. He gained immortality that day, whenever he was swept into a river whenever he went into the forest. Now, he then goes on stating that a fairy saved his life and gave him the offer for extreme power. Him chugging a glass, or at least a metal cup. Now, All Might is sort of confused. Midoriya continuing on with his explanation. Meanwhile, we do have, in Midoriya's room, Melissa does actually come too. She heard the knocking on the door, and was actually woken up by it. Her getting up and going to walk out. After hearing Uncle All Might walk in, and Midoriya begin his explanation. Her staying on the other side of the door, not wanting to interrupt Midoriya. However, she does actually just begin to listen. Midoriya going over everything. His immortality, how he got it, and what happened. Talking about the day All Might came and explained All for One to him. And that if he ever sees a man like that, to be careful. He did not think anything of it. However, he did want to remain on guard. And then there was the day that he was 9 years old. And All for One came for his power, or his immortality. As soon as All for One found out that it wasn't a quirk, he tried to kill him. He didn't understand what it was. So, he completely coated his body in acid, strong enough to corrode metal, and possibly even melt concrete. He drifted in between life and death for what the doctors told him were roughly 2 to 3 hours, before waking up and discovering that his father was put into a coma. Him jumping over to his mother's funeral and understanding these things. Before, Midoriya goes over his dreams that Elaine have given him, or, quite possibly, the doll, what she may have instructed him on. Midoriya then explaining that Diane told him that the Fairy King's forest, she left it and came here to Japan over 10 months ago, the day that the sludge villain attack occurred. Now, after Midoriya explains that, you actually do have Diane, who wakes up from all the commotion that they're going on about. You guys are too noisy. What are you talking about? Oh, giving him a rundown. Midoriya continuing on, talking about how the villain he was talking about that can jump between bodies was a demon. Yada yada yada. And eventually the story is over, to their current point. Melissa walking out, and at least trying to greet Uncle All Might. Young Melissa, what are you doing here? Oh, well, it's sort of a bit more complicated. All Might pausing for a second before looking at Midoriya. About to give Midoriya a certain tone, before Midoriya goes on explaining that he slept on the couch and Melissa slept in his room. The apartment that he thought was available had no furniture, and he wasn't just going to let her sleep in some vacant room with nothing at all. Besides, he's fairly certain that it at least did her some good. So, how much did you hear? All of it. I see. So, All for one. Is that the man who tried taking my father's technology? I believe so, yes. But you should really not get involved with this. Melissa going to give All Might a tone, before Midoriya quite simply just states that her father is in the hospital right now, All Might. She's very much involved. Besides, if Meliodas gives All for One that technology, in exchange for certain information or something that he might be able to find, then that means that this is going to put the entire world in danger. That piece of technology, it is not stable. It nearly drove Midoriya insane using it. In fact, the way he used his quirk was something that he's never even thought of doing. In fact, Midoriya trying to focus his power, and his hand being covered in purple fog. Before Midoriya actually does try and reach his hand out. As soon as Midoriya does actually just bring his hand up and try to extend his hand, nothing happens, except for a purple blast being shot out of his hand. Instead of Midoriya trying to go and grab a glass or something from his kitchen, he just shoots a beam directly into a giant pitcher that was there. It would either have tea or possibly even just Kool-Aid. Not only was it knocked over, but the thing exploded. Midoriya quickly just looking back at his hand. Okay. That's new. Alright, well, we can discuss what that was later. But for right now, I believe that you should contact young Merlin, or, well, would it be rude to call her old Lady Merlin? All Might, you might not want to do that. Okay, but how are we going to talk to her? So, Midoriya, are we just going to use like a magic spell, a certain phrase, a messenger pigeon, an owl? No, actually, you don't do that. Midoriya saying that as he walks over and grabs his phone, quickly giving her a call. Melissa, somewhat getting red in the face. She keeps thinking that this is somewhat like a movie. Magic is strange. Now, Merlin does pop up eventually. Her teleporting outside of Midoriya's apartment before knocking on his door. That was fast. Merlin opening the door and walking in, introducing herself. All Might sort of recognizing her. He's fairly certain that he's seen her before. But it's strange. Do not concern yourself with that, All Might. Now, I'm guessing that this is about the incidents on Island. Her turning to look at Midoriya. That strange scar on his face. My. I guess somebody's dabbled with something he shouldn't have. Yeah, this isn't from me. Did you overuse critical overdrive? You may have popped the, well, artery. Nope. I met the demon. Meliodas. I see. Her tone quickly shifting. Now, she goes on asking Midoriya exactly what information did he gather. Midoriya explaining it all. And, well, Merlin isn't really shocked by what he has to say. Of course, he's looking for the goddess, and he doesn't want to rule out the possibility that she may be dead. If he cannot get a goddess, well, her blood, a soul is still a very likely possibility. However, that is highly, well, complicated. If a goddess dies, they should be, well, they probably wouldn't stay dead, but most likely they would possibly reincarnate. However, it does also make sense that they could possibly pass on. However, she's unsure. If the goddess had no regrets in her life, she should be resting in the next world. So, let's see. This should make sense. Now, with that being said, Merlin goes on explaining. She can send him to the land of the dead. However, the time dilation between there and their current world, or their current place in time, is going to be vastly different. So, are you certain that you would like to go? Yes. Besides, how different could it really be? Well, think about it like this. A few days there could be a few years there could quite possibly be a few days here. Or, well, sort of close to purgatory. Purgatory? That's a real thing? Very much so. My father told me once that 1 minute in the real world, here, 60 seconds, was a full year there. So, going to the land of the dead possibly would not be a very good option, especially for a human. Her pointing to Melissa and All Might, saying that humans are somewhat of fragile creatures, and they do need to maintain their form, even though it might begin to degrade. Hmm? Well, I need to go there. My friend. Melissa going on to state that she is going, and she's going to find her father. I would ill advise against that. Against both of you, really. The amount of time there, and a full day in purgatory, it's almost 1500 years. Both these two looking back at each other. The course of one single day is that long? That's not possible, is it? I do not know. I have, well, looked at the land of the dead and documented it before, but I do not spend much time there. In fact, I lost a lot of interest in that place very fast. So, are you still certain that you would like to go? Her asking Midori if he thinks that he could just go on his own. I could. But I do have a question. And what exactly would that question be? Well, if we were to, say, split up. I'm sorry? Well, I mean split up. As in, you use your magical power and split me into different pieces. I see. And why would I do that? Well, Merlin, if you're able to make an exact copy of me, with all of my strength, all of my power, and all my knowledge, well, then we wouldn't have to spend much time there. I see where you're getting at. So you want me to make an army, is that correct? Well, it wasn't what I was going for, but it might actually work. But there's also one more thing. Midoriya pointing to All Might and Melissa, saying split them up too. I'm sorry? Melissa kind of confused also. Huh? Think about it like this. What she's going to do is split you into different pieces. It's not going to be painful, but you might want to hold on to something. After she does that, what's going to happen is relatively a bit more complicated. Once we begin to go through the process, she can send us to purgatory and we can come straight back. If we don't spend a lot of time there, well, it's good. Besides, I'm guessing our bodies will still be attuned to the human world, correct? I believe so. In fact, I believe that only your souls may be transported. Strange. Very much, but, well, actually, if I remember correctly, it was over 3,000 years ago. Technically, both you and your soul will be sent there. So, the way back might be a bit more painful. Now, after a lot of talking and discussion, it is set. Merlin teleporting these three away. Deanne just kind of confused, rolling back over on the couch and thinking that this might not be her own problem. However, she is quickly mistaken whenever she herself is teleported. And she's falling through the air. For Midoriya does catch her. Jesus! Merlin! Oh, I'm sorry. I must have miscalculated. Are you okay, Deanne? I'll be fine. Can you just put me down? Sure. Now, they begin to walk through this strange place. Merlin beginning an explanation. It is an armory, and it is what they will be going through. If she is going to be making dozens upon dozens of copies of them, then do understand this. They are going to be sort of tired for a while. In fact, what she plans on doing is using both their magical power and, well, little bits of pieces here and there to perform these magical rituals. Now, cut to a full day later. All that is done. Midoriya, he's wiped and exhausted. Meanwhile, we do have both Melissa and All Might, who are completely tired. And, thankfully, healing magic exists. Otherwise, these two might as well be tapped dry of blood. Now, with that being said, Melissa also does feel extremely exhausted, and she has no idea why. And she actually does want to try and practice on her magic more, going to wave up her hand and try and use her power. However, nothing happens. What is this? I see you do not fully understand it. Young Melissa's shield. Is that correct? Yes. Do you feel extremely exhausted right now? Kind of? Good. That is a sign that you are using magic correctly. However, the pool of magic you have been pulling from is somewhat limited at the moment. You must train harder and more in order to fully grasp your full potential. I believe that I can help you with that. And one day you will be a very powerful hero. Or quite possibly just a very powerful person. Now, with that, All Might and them are all teleported back to Midoriya's house. All Might actually turning off One for All and sitting down on the couch for a second, trying to recover some of his stamina. And Melissa, she herself, does actually sit down on the couch too, along with Midoriya. And you do have Deanne, who's still kind of confused. What did Merlin do to them? I think it's more what she didn't do to us. Now, with that being said, let us cut over to Purgatory. With dozens upon dozens of Midoriya's, Melissas, and All Mights popping in. As soon as they all do this, they all begin to separate and disperse. They are given a task to search Purgatory. So, this should not take very long. Even if it took 20 years, that quite possibly is only 20 minutes in the real world. Along with that, with the massive resolve of both All Might and Midoriya, they have a leg up. Meanwhile, you do have the copies of Melissa, who are using some magical equipment, along with help from Merlin, to stay ahead. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing night. We'll catch you guys in the next part.